All right, good morning, class. Welcome back to Math 11. Today we're starting a new chapter. We're going to be working with finance, generally with banking and budgeting, and of course bringing into working with interest, simple and compound interest, how long it takes to double your money, how to look for when you're working with credit cards, loans, which is better, buying a car or buying something or leasing it or renting it. All of you pretty soon will be out in the real world where you're going to have to look after your own budget, which means that you're going to have to know how to set up a bank account and how to save money. Everybody from the age of whenever you start giving money, whether it was early age when your grandparents or your parents give you money to save until you die, has to work with money. So you need it to live in the world. Will money give you happiness? Well, to some extent. Do you need a lot of money? Not really. It's been shown that countries that are the most wealthiest have the most unhappy people. There's some countries like I believe over in the Far East. I'm trying to remember whether it's Indonesia. It's got per capita the most happiest people in the world, and they're one of the poorest. However, we need our basics in life. We need food and shelter, and we also like to have some luxuries in life, and that means we have to make money. So what are we going to be able to do, hopefully in the next month or so? We want to look at what type of banking services are out there. A bank is not just a place that you save money. Banks are also where you have to arrange to have checking accounts, where you pay your bills, where you borrow money. If you're going to rent, then you need to have a landlord who is going to check your credit rating. He wants to make sure that he gets paid. Most landlords are going to ask you for first of the month, and some places they'll ask you for damage deposits. Now, living in Bathurst may be relatively cheap, but if you ever move away from here, which most people do because there's not many jobs around, you have to go to the bigger cities. And rents there are amazingly high. Vancouver, you can get a basement apartment with no furniture. It'll cost you $1,200 a month. And that's why most people have roommates, because they have to share the rent. The other thing we're going to look at is what kind of service charges, because the banks are going to charge you. They're not only going to hold the money for you, but anytime you put money in or take money out, there's a service charge. Your personal finance information, how do you keep it secure? We all work with computers these days, and unfortunately, there's also some bad people out there who like to hack in and disrupt the normality of the world, and so there is some security that most banks and financial institutions have for you. You're also going to develop a personal budget, so that way you're going to identify, maybe have some idea what kind of job, career you're going to be in, what sort of income you're going to get, and also we'll look at normal expenses that you have, and we're going to try and balance that budget. We're working with problems again that involve simple interest, compound interest. We're going to look at how long it takes to, to double your investment, the various types of investments. And we're going to look at comparing different types of credit options and how do you make a decision on whether to take something, like I said, for loan or lease or buy it outright. So these are all kinds of things that we can cover in the next little while. Now, these are two people that look like they're old, maybe your parents or grandparents, but you're all going to get there. We all hope we want to live to a ripe old age, but in order to live comfortably, you have to start preparing now. There is word that, you know, a lot of you have parents who maybe are retired or grandparents, and they're living on things like Canada pension. Canada pension is only good as long as people are putting money in. In my generation, I'm a lot older, there were kids like 8, 10 people in the family, so there were a lot of people putting money in there. Your generation, the average is maybe 1 or less per family. So there's less people putting money in there. It means the government can't make the money. They only give the money out that people put in there. However, we are one of the most well-off countries in the world compared to other places. We're always on the top list of the best countries to live in. That's because politically we're pretty stable. We have a lot of luxury here. You can turn on water on a tap. You got a bathroom. You don't have to go out and walk to pick up water or go behind a bush to go to the bathroom, or you have to go down to a shelter and get food. Not saying there's no homeless people here. There's like 3,000 homeless people in Toronto, mostly kids that run away from home, and they live in the subways. Yeah. There is violence, but that's true because we have 1/10 the population. There is more violence in the United States because there are like 375 million people there. We only have about 35. Also, our gun laws are different. We don't have the same freedom to carry weapons around like the Americans do. So we have less opportunity to cause violent acts. A lot of people get mad, they yell and scream, but they don't pull out a gun and start shooting you just because they disagree about you, okay? On the norm. Other countries, it's very militaristic. You go to Africa, they have kids that they train in the army. As soon as they can carry a gun, 10 years old, they're child soldiers out there. And they do that because they have no other way to live. It's the only way they can get food. Now, even though we're on the top 10 list of the best countries in the world, many Canadians retire with no savings to support them. It's because they don't plan. They figure that the government's going to take care of them, and then the government can't do that. You notice a lot of people now are in retirement homes. A lot of old people. They pay for that. Everything they saved goes into that. So if you have no savings, who's going to take care of you? Okay? Nobody. And you don't want to be like that. Like I said, those kids up in Toronto, used to make me sick. I'd be sitting at McDonald's and I'm wondering who's going to get that French fry first, that pigeon or that kid, because they're both fighting for the same food on the street. They sleep on the sidewalk with their sleeping bags. There's a lot of them up there. Thousands of them. Montreal too, yes. All big cities are like that. But we don't have to retire with no savings. It doesn't have to be that way. And it's quite easy now to retire with enough money to live comfortably, as long as you are disciplined and you plan for it, and your money's smart. So what kind of jobs would you need to have a working knowledge of finance? Banking, of course, if anybody works in a bank, because you got to deal with people's money. Cashiers, anybody who works in stores. Okay, even though the computer does a lot for them, they still have to know how to give out money, recognize money, know what read prices and stuff. You can get into the higher level stuff too. People who look after other people's finances, they're accountants. People are professional. They look after, they help pay your taxes. So all these tax people, like what's it called? Block Brothers, the one that do your taxes. H&R Block, yeah. People that need to get their taxes done. Businesses, anybody who runs a business, a small business, any store, you got to know how much, you got to know how you're going to save money, how you're going to make a profit, how much do you put it up, how much do you mark it up, how much you discount it. Construction, anybody who has their own company, self-employed, any business, they need to know about finances. And even the individual, along with you people, if you want to be able to buy things, you can't always depend on your parents or your grandparents giving you money. It can only come Christmas once a year or birthday once a year. You might get some gifts in, but the rest of the year, you may have to work part-time. You may have to make extra money to buy the extras that you want. So there's all kinds of things that need to have an idea about finance. And I had a sister who was a registered nurse. She just passed away last year. She was 65, and she was a head nurse at the hospital of Miramichi, and she still didn't know how to write a check. She never wrote a check in her life. because her husband did everything for her. Her husband was a control freak. He would never let her do anything. But it's sad that some people don't even know how to make a check to pay a bill. So, what I'm going to get you to do, I'm going to show these short little videos here. I got time for one. There's two of them here. You just have to go on YouTube. That's everybody knows how to get there. And I didn't put the links here, but if you type in how to save money fast, 5 tips for saving money, and this other one, smart savings, plan big for the future. They're only like 2 or 4 minutes long. They're not very long. So I want you to answer these questions. What are some ways to put money away for savings? How can someone save for a large expense? So those are 2 questions that answers you can get from looking at those videos. And I'll show one of them right after this. And then complete finance warm-up. These are just to get you going. A time period, when we're working with money in banks, we borrow it or we loan it for a certain time, but the bank always works in years. So you need to convert 6 months to a year. How many months in a year? 12. How many days in a year? 365. So you're going to have to convert 30 days to a year. It means you're going to have to divide 30 by 65. Then I want you to express the years back to months. So 12 months in a year, 3 years. That's pretty easy. Express each percent as a decimal. Well, we already did that. Remember, percent is always over 100. And if we divide that, we're going to get a decimal. 0.25. And then determine 1% of 5. Well, remember the word of means multiply. So I have to take my 1%, change it to a decimal, and then multiply it by whatever number I have to get the answer. So the word of means multiply. And then calculating your taxes. Well, we already did that when we had to calculate for markup and discounts. We had to add the tax. Remember, New Brunswick, our HST tax is 15%. So what is 15% of $100? Okay, so change that to a decimal. And then multiply it by 100. Get your answer. Another thing we do because we work with money is we have to round. And in Canada, we have 100 cents to make a dollar. So everything is 2 places after the decimal. So if I have $1, it's 1.00. If I have $1.05, it's 1.05. So all of these numbers, I want you to round to 2 places. And lastly, rearranging a formula. If we have a formula like A, the area, equals length times width, how do we calculate what W is? Or remember, if we just want W, we have to get rid of the L. If I do this to one side, I have to do it to the other. And then it crosses out. Okay? So that's how you do those things. And you do the same thing for this one here. Okay, so I'm going to show you the video for the people at home. I'm going to stop this. Don't forget to go to your links. And I'll attach the assignment page to your video lesson as well.